so that you will have this. Just a note that the content presented here, as well as the the webinar presentation audio, will be provided to you at the end of this session. Thank you all for attending here in a busy holiday season. We actually have quite a few attendees here, and I appreciate that, knowing you've got holidays and end of year items to get to, so we really appreciate those here who are attending. We're going to talk today a little about, for those of you that are MSPs, how to drive new revenue with dark web monitoring service. And those services are services that can be provided through us at SureShield. Just basically what we'll talk about today, and hopefully we'll buy you back some time with this session as well, is we'll go over a little bit about the compliance and security trends that we're seeing, dark web trends that are happening right now, and then really how you can leverage services through dark web services that can help you utilize this as a sales tool for your organization, and actually hopefully allow you to use that to drive more services. We'll talk a little bit about the SureShield dark web monitoring solution we have under the auspices of a product called BreachShield. And then we will take any questions that you may have in terms of the product, the offering. We will also, at the end of the session, take a brief poll for those who are on to see if you would like to go ahead and utilize or test drive this solution. As I mentioned, we'll talk about how it can be utilized as an excellent sales tool to help engage current customers and really help them understand where some significant problems may be. As we know, even though it is the holidays, our cyber criminals are out there in great force. There's a whole big issue right now with this logjam attack or ransomware issue, and a lot of companies are trying to deal with that. Towards the end of the session, we'll actually point out to you how one of the products that we have through SureShield can help you with your customers that might be experiencing or trying to figure out how to deal with that particular issue. But as we know, the cost of cybercrime continues to significantly rise. There is actually just an interview with one of the heads of the Fed, who indicated that his concerns, of course, we're always concerned with inflation and rising costs, but his really biggest concerns are with cyber crime and with ransomware and those types of attacks, because of the impact, the economic impact it can have on our financial institutions. He's more concerned about that than he is in some of the other things that are concerning to us on a day-to-day basis. And we're witnessing this really on a daily basis with the different types of attacks that are happening at corporations, at critical resource delivery organizations. And obviously, as we know, this is a much safer way to commit crimes and even to commit warfare. A lot easier to try to hack into something than to have someone shooting at you. So it continues to rise, and as such, the opportunities for folks like you who are servicing in that area obviously will continue to rise as well. They're expecting that on the compliance side of that, the marketplace is going to reach close to $45 billion in servicing products, software, those types of opportunities by the end of 2022. And compliance-driven security purchases are up close to 30%. Many of you might be dealing with government-related entities. As we know, there's a close tie between compliance and security. All these organizations, a lot of these organizations or suppliers have compliance-related issues they need to deal with and make sure that they're in compliance to secure contracts or make sure that they don't get penalized. But the majority of that is made up of issues. The compliance issues are making sure that things are secure. And there's a lot of new government mandates. So the marketplace for folks like you that are MSPs is is obviously significantly growing, and there's great opportunities to help companies that really need help. And on the dark web trending area, obviously there are millions of credentials that are being stolen every month. There's new malware and malicious bots that are introduced daily. Well, almost every day you can turn on the TV or read something about some new type of attack or some new problem that's been introduced. And this is not only at the consumer level. What's concerning with corporations as well is that hacking in and getting into credentials of employees is actually giving them another backdoor to actually steal not only data from that company, but from the employees who work for that company. So it continues to be a significant issue. And a lot of the organizations, particularly, we know there's companies that have very, very large resource departments, and they have the people and the ability to pay for certain technologies to try to prevent a lot of the attacks that are happening. But a lot of organizations just don't have the understanding of the degrees of compromise that may be in their environment. And there's lots of good tools to identify and remediate. You will, as we go into this and where we're going to show you some of the differences in terms of what SureShield can provide, there's a number of good, what I would call monitoring or dark web monitoring tools that are out there to allow you to, identify if credentials have been compromised or what type of malware is out there. The issues that a lot of them have is knowing that is one thing, being able to act on it and do something with that is much more difficult. So we're going to talk a little bit about how this can be utilized, one, to help a customer of yours understand where those compromises may be, giving them a snapshot of where the problems are, and then turning that into opportunities for additional services that you can provide to those. So obviously the opportunity today for organizations like yours is that there are obviously increasing in compliance requirements, difficulty in understanding all the different types of security breaches and hacks that are going on and being able to deal with those. And there are more, organizations, they're taking today, I think, an even greater focus now because of the proliferation of attacks. I try to move from a more passive protection to an active detection and risk mitigation situation. So, and this number is probably low, but the average cost of a security breach today is close to $5 million. They're orchestrated not just by criminals, but by foreign governments as well. And as I said before, it's a major concern for the United States in general, for any country in general, but obviously a very significant concern of our financial markets as well. So there's an increased focus on having good tools in place that can help mitigate these types of attacks. So how does the SureShield platform help? And we're going to focus in specifically on a product of ours called BreachShield for dark web monitoring. I won't go into all the other solutions. I will just note that, as we mentioned with the logjam, there's been a lot of organizations having difficulty even having tools to identify whether that vulnerability exists. If you're dealing with that and have interest at a later date or want to talk to us, we do have a product underneath our platform, and we provide a partner platform that has all of these different products that can be utilized. But our Security Shield solution can actually help you identify those vulnerabilities and implement remediation processes for that. So we provide kind of a comprehensive compliance and security platform. But underneath that, and what we're going to talk about just briefly today and show you a tool that you can leverage very easily with your customers, is our product called BreachShield. And just to focus in on BreachShield and what it does, it's a dark web surveillance and remediation tool. We will not take, I would say, we'll take credit for working with the best in breed. So we actually leverage a solution from a company called Vigilante that was recently purchased by ZeroFox. That is a leader in these types of offerings. But what we've done is taken it a next step to layer on top of their solutions a lot of processes that can help in the what I would call the identification and remediation process. So it's a continuous dark web monitoring tool with instant alerts. It obviously identifies malware. It identifies malicious bots. It identifies issues with credentials. It will identify cyber intrusion detection, both with malware and command and control type activities. It also creates and provides what we call a dark web chatter monitoring tool. So you can actually input, for instance, if you have a concern about your company, or you have a particular product offering, or something that you're concerned about, perhaps people having interest in doing bad things to, either stealing or creating problems, is a mechanism to actually monitor the chatter that's going on the web. So if I was concerned about a product I had, I could put certain terms in there, and then I can see if there's any chatter that's going on around that particular area, plans to do anything bad with it. So very helpful tool for doing that. And then this comes, as I mentioned, and we're going to show you briefly, with not only real-time data collection, but instant abilities to remediate, and even some built-in what I would call task management remediation processes that are already provided in the back end of this. So it's what I would call a relatively inexpensive tool to use. You can actually leverage this to do what I would call, and we're going to show you, like some spot evaluations of a customer. Where it becomes more valuable, obviously, is in the ongoing utilization and remediation process. But you can leverage this in the beginning to help a customer understand where compromises may already be in place. And again, sometimes they're quite shocked when they see the type of information that comes in from this to tell them where there's problems. And keeping in mind, if you have issues with things like malware, or you have issues with credentials that are being compromised, you're actually having issues with your overall security, vulnerability, and compliance issues. All of these kind of translate into those. Obviously, if you have infected hosts and things like that, you've got security issues, and you need to make sure you're employing good security services and solutions to help with that. All of these, have an implication on compliance related issues as well. So you can leverage this as well, not only for helping understand where problems exist on the dark web and help fix those, but also utilizing those as a service provider, as a means to help promote other types of service activities or services you may be providing as a managed service provider. And I won't go into this in detail. All of this is created on a platform that allows you to launch different utilities. And we call that our PartnerShield platform. And they fall into kind of three different solutions. You have data security solutions, compliance solutions, and third-party risk management solutions. As we mentioned, we're going to focus specifically right now on the BreachShield utility. So with that, I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to open up our one solution that's called BreachShield. And this is our dark web monitoring solution. I will mention and show to you all how you can utilize this. As I said, not only is something that can be provided ongoing to your customers once you've shown them where problems may lie, but also as a means to actually help them understand where problems are right now. And while I'm getting to that, Chandi, I see a couple of messages on chat, is there anything that I need to be aware of before we go into the overall, just brief overview of BreachShield?
Nothing, carry on.
Okay. So I have actually gone ahead and signed in right now into this application under the auspices of SureShield. And if you're an MSP, you'll notice that you'll have the ability to actually go ahead, set up and manage any and all of the customers you may have. What I've come into this just briefly, it gives me kind of a dashboard of different types of tasks and things I may need to do for the customers I'm servicing. But to the left are the applications within here. And one of those, as we said, is our product called BreachShield. And this is a dark web monitoring solution. So as soon as I come into that dashboard, it's going to begin to show me information on any infected hosts I may have across my client base, domains that may have issues with this, credentials that may have been breached, credit cards that may have been breached. So all of this information can be easily entered into the solution, and then it will begin to start monitoring and looking for those types of different issues. And you'll note below, all of this comes with what I would call automated task flow. So at the MSP level, if you're going to provide some of these services yourself, and or at your client level, you will assign certain administrators and managers of information. And if anything comes in that is a red flag around these areas, for instance, on the host side or the domain side or the credit card breach side, you will immediately be assigned a task to actually go in and review that and take care of it and eliminate it. On the credential side, that is monitoring all of the credentials of the employees within your company's organization. And so if there's anything that's compromised, not only will you be notified of it, but that employee will immediately be notified that they have an issue with the breach and tell them that they have actions that they need to do. So you can see down here, it's showing me the different types of actions, the to-dos, what is actually going on right now, and then if they have been done or completed, they can be eliminated from that process. I want to show you, before I go into a couple of these things, how you can very quickly utilize this to do what I would call static, initial static reviews of a particular client you may be working with, to help them understand where issues may lie. So if you come up here, you should see that I have some different icons. Each one of these allows me to input new information to monitor for those, but you'll notice I have an ad hoc search component. And if I go into this, I can actually go ahead and monitor on a variety of different ways, whether it's an IP, a domain, a person, a particular company. In this case, I'm just going in and indicating a particular company I want to look at. I'm going to go back in time a little bit with this company. We'll go back to 2019. It may take a little time to run. And then as soon as I've done that, I can go ahead and run a search on these, and it's going to go ahead and begin to leverage and look at that particular domain and tell me what issues I may have with that particular domain. And Chani, while this is running, do you want to add anything more to how that particular search works?
Yes, actually, we have a large database of all the breaches and the breach data that has been exposed. So that runs into billions of records. So we actually search in that database to find anything related to this particular company. So it's looking at central.com as a domain. So all emails associated with central.com is checked for leak credentials. At the same time, we can also look for all the IP addresses associated with central.com and then look for any malware infections or command and control communications happening from those IP addresses. In addition, we can also track any botnet activity, either originating from within central.com or targeted at central.com. And one more thing we do is actually monitor e-crime posts. This is like there are various fora in the dark web for hackers to collaborate and plan attacks. So we can eavesdrop on them and look for any pattern of text that is of interest. In this case, it default assumes central to look for, and that could lead to a lot of
Yes.
false positives because central is a very common word, but it can be tailored and configured to look for anything meaningful that is related to the company here.
Exactly. And so where we're highlighting in something like this with the customer you may have, you can go in and say, let me run a search for you on a variety of different things. Pull that up and actually show them where they have issues today. A lot of times they may not have any clue that they have that, or to the depth that that's there. So you can see, again, you can enter a lot of different information to run those. So this will generate a report that you can actually utilize to take back to your customer and say, we did this monitoring, a spot monitoring on here, and here's where we've noticed you have significant issues or problems. The next step with that, obviously, from the servicing is how you can utilize it then on an ongoing basis to do continuous monitoring. So I'm going to go back, and now if I were to go back into, again, I can go ahead and look at my different clients that I have within here. And so underneath this one that's called the Gestalt Tech PVT, this is where they're using it on an ongoing basis, and you can see what has been identified within here right now and the various tasks that may have been assigned to those individuals. So if I were to click into these, it's going to show me, all the hosts that we're currently having watch, what malwares have been detected, what CNC issues have been detected, what botnet activity has been detected. And then within here, again, it will give me more specific information as to what that is, what the type of botnet is, what the risk issue is with that. And then, of course, it's also showing me assigned tasks that have been sent out to folks to actually deal with this to try to eliminate the problems that you have with that. Chandi, do you want to add anything more to this? And by the way, Chandi is our CTO here at SureShield and chief, focus person on the product.
Yeah, so the whole point here is it's not just finding the problems, it is, tracking it to closure. So it basically automatically creates tasks with guidance on how to address this. For example, in this case, assets with malwares. So the malwares have to be removed using a variety of mechanisms. We basically point to and basically guide people to go do a search on that to figure it out, how to remove that. But that task stays open till that is removed. Right. Similarly, in terms of command and control, so if that asset is found to be communicating, typically all malwares have a communication channel open with a command and control to take instructions on what to do next. So the action would be to basically block communication to that particular IP address so that at least the malware becomes ineffective. So these are created as tasks and driven to closure so that whatever risk is identified is addressed within a specified time so that the risk is contained.
Exactly. And that's what makes it, as we said, more than just a dark web monitoring. It's a dark web monitoring remediation and security solution. And again, that can be utilized by you to provide services to help that particular customer in remediating these particular problems as well. Just going to go back here briefly and also just point out that while tasks are assigned to different individuals, you also have the ability within there, as we said, we have an automated task management process, but in some cases you may need to redirect that particular activity. So you can see in this case, this particular was showing me that there was a compromised credit card. And it will actually show me, if I were to go to the next, to show me what that particular card was, what the problem was with that, when this was found. But if I were going back, and this happens with all the items as well, if I wanted to reassign that or say, you know what, I need someone else to take action on it, then I had the ability to go in and assign and reassign that information to someone else. And as a overseer of this, whether it's you as the company or you guiding your particular client that you're working with, they will have a full-on dashboard, understanding of where everything stands, what's being acted on, what the status is of that, what's been resolved, and really giving you a more real-time, I would say, security, better security hygiene within here. So let me cancel out. So that is in it, for the most part, in just understanding how this particular solution works. It's a very powerful and yet pretty simple to use solution. Again, just to give you an idea of what these dashboards look like, I went into, in this case, some of the malwares that were detected within here. And it's very easy, again, to just go in, identify different activities you want to take on that, what the nature of those are, and really help resolve them to improve their security posture. So again, there's also ways in which you can set up the different ways you want to be alerted. There's tools, system admin tools that allow you to easily set up your customers and assign them the products or services that you want them to have. So if you're utilizing just this solution for a variety of customers, you'll have what I would call a macro view, and then you will have an individual customer view of activities that are taking place with them. So that is the security, or excuse me, our BreachShield solution. I'm going to pause here while we get to the end of the session. 1 second. And Chandi, are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, let's go back into full screen. So, what does the monitoring services do? It provides you a self-service portal. It helps you manage all your clients in one interface. You can leverage this to utilize as a means to help your customers take action. And then you can also utilize this as a means to use that data to drive additional services to your organization, and obviously get a lot of good insight into those solutions as well. So that is getting close to the end of the conclusion of our session. Just very quickly, before as we get into Q&A, as we mentioned, this is a very easy solution for us to turn on and give you the opportunity to test and utilize and work with the customer, to help them with this. So we're going to take just a brief poll for those who are here. While we get into the Q&A, to just ask questions as to whether you would be interested in utilizing and trying this solution out. If so, we will follow up with you and get you set up with your own use of the product. And with those who are responding yes, and I see quite a few, we will go ahead and just keep an eye out for a note from us asking for a good time to contact you, and we will go ahead and do that and get you set up on the solution. I'll keep the poll open right now while we go ahead and answer any, go into any questions that we may have. And sorry, Chandi, some of these are actually helpful. It might be helpful, even though the folks may have seen this, to talk a little bit about how the product can be used for remediation and how they can help folks with that.
Yeah, so the question was whether there are any services we provide along with the product. So the answer is the product can be used from a customer perspective as a self-service product, that is they can all use by themselves because we provide all the guidance, or MSP can use it to offer managed service on top of it. But
Exactly.
we do not package any services. We rely on our MSP partners to provide the services.
Yes, or the customer themselves. So if we're working with the customer, we can provide them the guidance on how to remediate, but we are not actively doing those remediation services ourselves. And I see a question about cost. This is a very inexpensive solution. I think it's $50 a month, Chandi, per client, if I'm correct. Very relatively inexpensive solution to have for you to help with that. And then of course, there's some cost for if they continue to use it for their, doing their own regular monitoring, but very, very cost effective and really something that can help, as we said, drive other service offerings for you as well.
Yeah, to add to that, this can be a good door opener for soliciting business from customers, because most of the time, any of these are because of lax security practices within the organization. So the other tools help improve that security posture and compliance so that the organization becomes secure as a result of that.
I'm not seeing. Oh, actually, just a quick question. Can you explain a little bit again about the crime? I think you called it like the chatter room, basically.
Yeah, so primarily the dark web is an equivalent of the open web. Just like we use the open web to ask questions or solicit information or collaborate with people, the dark web is used by the criminals to do that similar kind of activities. So by monitoring what's happening in the chatter there, you can get an idea of what is to come. So we in fact have intelligence which basically tells what kind of business deals are going on. A lot of people are actually offering ransomware as a service, what kind of vulnerabilities those ransomware as a service actually look for, and that guidance we can provide back to the customer to say, if you have these kind of vulnerabilities, you better fix it because you could be a target very soon, right? This kind of advanced intelligence is what you would actually get by monitoring what's going on in the chat rooms. So it's not always easy to look for a specific pattern, but we augment that along with some summary data that we get on a weekly basis. So we add that information to that to relate it back to a customer.
And again, like I said, it's an excellent door opening tool because these clients are often pretty shocked when they see the amount of activity that's taken place that they really did not have any clue of. And more importantly, I think they like the fact that they have processes to help remediate. I do see another question, Chandi.
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
Okay.
So if a credit card or phone number is compromised, what is that? So credit card, the task is very simple: to call the bank and cancel that card to get a new card issued. So that takes care of the problem. Phone number is not something that we actually offer to monitor, because phone numbers, I don't think you can keep it secret so long. But there is something like, one of the advanced features that we are contemplating to introduce is like a takedown service, right? For example, there are a lot of hackers who basically put a lookalike service out there. So a Bank of America can have a Bank of America lookalike service to defraud customers, the real customers of Bank of America, to lure them to that site and enter their credentials, so which can then be used to actually go log into the actual site and do some damage. So all these things require something called a takedown service, which is very complicated because you need to go back to the actual providers of that service, like whether it's a WordPress or a GoDaddy or various IP address allocation services across the world to actually bring down a service. So that's one of the things we are contemplating to have in the future. But yeah, it's there are some things which can be easy to do. There are some things which require a lot more activity, and that's why it's not one solution fits all.
Yep. Great. So any other questions? We may have bought you back a little time. As we mentioned, for those of you, I still have the poll open that would like to get access to this dark web monitoring solution. I see the responses, and so we will be in touch with those that you have indicated, yes, you would like to do so. And then, of course, if you have any interest in any of the other SureShield products, we did talk about this logjam issue that's pretty significant right now. We have a solution to help you with that. You can contact us at either sure-shield.com or info@sureshield.com, or just respond as we mentioned. You will be getting follow-ups with this content, as well as the webinar presentation as well. So with that, we want to wish you all a very happy holiday. We appreciate you taking time out of what's always a busy month with closing out the year, as well as dealing with, holidays and vacations and the like. So for those of you that came, we really appreciate that. Again, if you need anything from us, please reach out. And for those who indicated they'd like to test out the tool, we're going to be following up with you and getting you set up on that. So thank you again for your attendance, and happy holidays to all.